Hello everyone, welcome you all to my channel Champions Learn and Grow. So today we will learn about the crop production and its management. This is the chapter 1 of class 8. So students, in this chapter we will learn about the how crops are being produced and its management. So let's understand the chapter. So we already know that all the living organisms require food, right? So the energy from the food is utilized by the organism for carrying out its various activities like digestion, respiration and excretion, and the plants can make their food themselves, but animals including humans can't. So we get our food basically both from the plants and the animals, right? So since we all need food, right? So how can we provide food to such a large number of people in our country? As our country has got a huge population, right? So food has to be produced on a larger scale, right? So in order to provide food for a larger population, what we need? We need is regular production of the food, its proper management, and also distribution of the food is very necessary for such a large population, right? So quickly we will understand first about our history of agriculture, right? So students, till 10,000 BC, people were nomadic, right? They were wandering in groups from one place to another in search of food and shelter. They ate raw fruits, vegetables and started hunting for the animals for the food. But later they could cultivate land and produce rice, wheat and other food crops. Thus, what was born was agriculture. Then the agriculture was started. Now, what are crops? So in order to provide food to such a large population, we need crops, we grow crops, right? But what are crops? Let's understand. When the plants of same kind are grown and cultivated at one place on a larger scale, it is called as a crop. For example, crop of wheat means all the plants grown in the field are that of wheat. Similarly, there are crops of fruits, vegetables. So there are variety of crops. And also we know that India is a large country, right? And there are different climatic conditions occur, like different temperature, humidity occur, and rainfall also occur in different states. It varies from one region to another, right? So there is also variety of crops grown in different parts of the country. So depending on the season, the crops also can be classified, right? There are so three types of crops, like first is Kharif crops, Rabi crops and the Zaid crops. So what are these crops? First we will understand about the Kharif crops. The crops which are generally grown in rainy season are known as Kharif crops, right? So these crops are generally grown from June to the September. Remember students, right? These crops are sown from June to September. The examples of the Kharif includes paddy, maize, soyabean, groundnut and cotton. So all these are the Kharif crops, right? Now what are Rabi crops? These crops are known as winter crops because they are grown in winter, right? So their period of growth is October to March. So in between these crops are grown in between this period. Examples include wheat, gram, pea and mustard. Now what about Zaid crops? These are the summer crops as these are grown in summer, right? So the example include moong, muskmelon, watermelon, cucumber and bitter gourd. So these are the Zaid crops. You must remember all types of crops, right? Now let's understand about the practices of the crop production. So the cultivation of crops involves several activities which are undertaken by the farmers over a period of time. So these activities or tasks are known as agriculture practices. So farmers perform all these activities for the production of the crop. So let's understand these activities, right? So now cultivation of crops requires various activities, like number one is the preparation of the soil. This is the first step in the production of the crop. Then the second step is the sowing. In this the farmers sow the seeds into the soil. And the third is the adding manures and fertilizers. Then after that, irrigation is done, right? And after irrigation, the crops are generally produced and they are generally protected from the weeds. And after this step, they do the harvesting of the crops. And the finally is the storage. So let's understand one by one all these steps. The first step in the production of the crops is the soil preparation. This is the very important step, right? So this step involves, soil preparation generally involves two things: plowing and tilling and leveling. And plowing is done by the three implements, that is plow, hoe and cultivator, and the leveling of the soil is done by leveler. So let's understand all these one by one. So first is the preparation of soil. Preparation of soil is the first step before growing a crop. It generally involves loosening and the turning of the soil. Remember, first of all we have to loosen and turn the soil. It is also called as plowing and tilling. Remember students, this is very important. The loosening and the turning of the soil is called as plowing and tilling, and this is the first step in the preparation of a crop, right? So why loosening and turning of the soil is important? Because loosening and turning of the soil allows the roots to penetrate deep into the soil, right? The loose soil also allows roots to breathe easily so that they can go deep into the soil. And it also helps in the growth of earthworms and various microbes present in the soil. And these microbes in turn loosen and turn the soil and also add humus to it, right? And it also brings loosening and turning nutrient rich soil to the top so that the plants can use nutrients which are present in the soil. So first, our soil is like this. It has got large big lumps. So we have to loose the soil and turn the soil so that we can grow crops in this soil. So remember, this is the first step in the preparation of the, that is the preparation of the soil, right? So before sowing the seeds, it is necessary to break the soil so that the larger grains of the soil, it is broken down into the smoother one, right? To get better yield. So the preparation of soil is done by plowing and tilling. Now how plowing and tilling is done? It is done by this plow. You can see this instrument, that is which is held by a farmer, and second is the cultivator. So we will learn about the various instruments or the tools which are required for the plowing and the tilling, right? After the plowing and tilling, what is done is leveling of the land is done. How the leveling is, what is leveling? Leveling is the process of pressing the pieces and the crumbs of the plowed soil into the ground to create a level surface. And leveling is done using levelers. First, what is done? Plowing is done. After plowing, this leveling is done, right? So that we can create a level ground surface, right? So these are the levelers. Nowadays, laser levelers are used, right, in order to level the land so that we can grow crops on this land. Otherwise, we won't be able to grow crops on a unlevel land, right? So we have to level the land after plowing. Now we will learn about the agriculture tools which are used for plowing and tilling. The tools which are used for plowing and tilling are plow, hoe and the cultivator. Now what is plow? Plow is generally being used since ancient times for tilling the soil, adding fertilizers to the crop and removing the weeds. This plow is generally made up of wood. You can see in the picture, and it is drawn by a pair of bulls. It contains a strong iron strip that is called as a plowshare, right? The main part of the plow is plow shaft, right? You can see in the picture, this is the plow shaft which is the main part, and at one end of the plow shaft there is one handle and the other end of the plow shaft is attached to the beam. So beam is generally placed on the bull's neck. So this tool is generally used since ancient times by the farmers for plowing and tilling the soil. Now the next instrument is hoe. What is hoe? Hoe is a simple tool which is also used for removing the weeds and for loosening the soil. It also has got a long rod of wood or iron, right? And also contains a strong broad bent plate which is fixed to one of its end, and it works like belt. So it is also pulled by animals, and it also plays important role in plowing and tilling of the land. And now the last agricultural tool which is used for plowing is the cultivator. Nowadays plowing is basically done by the tractor driven cultivator. Now the use of cultivator basically saves the labor and the time. You can see in the picture, the cultivator is generally attached at the back of the tractor. Right, so we have learned about various instruments which are used for plowing and tilling. So this was the first step of the soil preparation. With this we end our first part. So thank you so much. The link of all the parts are given in below, right? So if you like my video, please like, share and subscribe my channel.